It's Sunday night. We're back and it's live. The Red, White and Blue football show. And where do we start? From drones, floodlight fails, broken nets, you name it. For the next hour, Stephen and I are going to take you just on a trip through all this weekend's football. And do you know something? There might be somebody watching this week whose team's actually won for a change. So join us in the chat if you can. Whilst we bring in Stephen, how are you doing, mate? Another win for Liverpool today. So,
yeah, fortuitously, which we'll get to. We were out in the end by the referee, but I'll take it. I'll take that. But yeah, what a week! What a week of things to happen, like you're at the zone.
Yeah, it's absolutely bizarre. It's really bizarre because actually, you know, I went to watch Scarborough yesterday, and you're just trying to catch up on scores, and then you realise that game's only, I think they were off the pitch for over 20 minutes, and so you know when you're thinking, hang on, this is like that. Was it that time when Gatwick was shut, and like they couldn't take any planes couldn't take off? So now if you fly a drone over a football pitch, the players are going to go off. It's crazy, absolutely crazy stuff.
I thought whoever had the best seat in the stadium anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't actually, to be honest with you, it was actually a half decent game. You know, I don't think many people would have thought Wolves would have got much at Brentford. So again, Wolves one of them teams that you're not really expecting to score too many times, but they dug in, they got a decent result. So obviously, maybe it's part of the new managers. Was it Bruno Lage's training plan? We're going to set the drone out, and we'll get insider knowledge as to how we can break Brentford down.
You could have just turned the telly on, couldn't you? At the end of
the Oh dear.
Then you had the manager getting sent off at the end of that game.
For nothing. Yeah, for nothing. It was just like. Yeah, I'm not going. I'm not biting on the referee bit. Yeah, I'll save that moment of ire and disgust for a few minutes. Yeah. But I don't know. Did you see the Friday night game? And I've got to say, it was the floodlights failed there at Watford Norwich, and two teams that are struggling. Two teams that. You don't quite know what's going to happen unless you're Norwich and you turn up against Everton. But actually, for me, it was one of the best games of the whole weekend. Norwich were absolutely brilliant. The lad Dennis for Watford has cost me massively on fantasy football. So he's getting sold this week because he was on a double game week. So they're playing Burnley in midweek. And then I was cashed in on Dennis thinking, there you go, he's going to bag a couple of goals against Norwich, couple of goals against Burnley. I'll be quids in for Fantasy League. No, I capped him, he got sent off, and I'm now minus 2 points for a player in Fantasy League. It's just
I'm ridiculous. With you, Charlie. I'm with you, John. I'm with you, right? Because I just didn't captain him. I had Joe Linton or Dennis to put on. And I put Dennis on because he got 2 games in the week and he cost me a point. Yeah. I'm with you on that one. Addison, Charlie is in Florida this weekend, so he's with us this weekend. So he's out visiting the mouse.
Yeah, Charlie's also enjoying the fact. I think he's now back to the top of the league in our fantasy football as well after this weekend. So, but we'll keep that a secret from him. Don't tell him. We'll keep it, and you never know. We'll be. Yeah.
He's a coming up. Yeah. I thought Nick in the chat with what's going on with the Spurs game today.
Yeah, that's time yet. Don't worry. He'd be emptying out the bottom half of that empty glass that he kind of has, and sort that out first. You know, but it's. I'll tell you, I'm going to get out of the way the game that really annoyed me most, and that was actually the Everton game. Ferguson in charge. I was actually delighted to see that he put money behind the bar in the Winslow to buy the fans a pint, which I thought, something as a touch of class from somebody who actually understands what the fans are going through. It was the one thing that was better was that Everton actually showed some much bigger desire than they've shown of late. And I think the second half performance in particular, it gives a sort of platform on which to build. Goodness knows what's going to happen with the manager, but I'd say give it a big dunk for now. But Gerrard did a job, and Gerrard actually, I think probably most Liverpool fans would have spent a good deal of time yesterday lunchtime having a good chuckle at Stevie G and winding the fans up, playing Coutinho from the start, and I'm playing Luca Digne as well after his disappearance from Everton. But yeah, well deserved by Villa. I can't grumble with that. It was just one chance in the game, and it was. But at least Everton showed they cared. They actually showed that they cared.
Yeah, it was a good goal that they scored. Like it was a good header that he'd done. Yeah, I watched that game myself, and it was just like I seen all the banners getting flown above Goodison Park. You know, get rid of the owners. Ken Knight's got to go. We said it last week. We said, Ken Knight's got to go. He's the one who's causing the problems. Okay, if Rafa's not the right fit, fine, fair enough. You know what I mean? Get whoever you want it. Get whoever you're going to get in and back them. You know, because to sack someone after so many months and only giving them £2 million, and then we all know, everyone can see at Everton Football Club the squad's just not good enough. Yeah, and they need to give a manager time and just back him. Give him 2 or 3 years. And back him, whoever that is. Just otherwise Everton are going to slowly find themselves in the same position as Watford, changing the manager every 2 minutes because it doesn't suit. And it's just not the way to run football clubs. Everton's a fantastic football club, and it needs to be staying in the Premier League. I think it will do. I don't think there's any danger of you getting relegated this year. Although,
I'm still not quite as convinced on that one. And I know that's me being glass half empty for the usual sort of Evertonian sort of look on this. But you look at the next run of games that Everton have got. They're away at Newcastle, so that becomes a must win. They're at home to Leeds, which becomes a must win. Away to Southampton, must win. And then home to City, away to Spurs, home to Wolves. And then once you get into the end of March, we've got Watford away, West Ham away. And to be honest, I'm looking to see where they're going to pick points up from. And I'm not seeing it in those fixtures. I really don't see us. I could see us getting to the end of March, start of April, and still being languishing at the bottom. We've currently only got 19 points. We still need at least another 20 points to secure a Premier League place next season. That's a lot from a team that is currently they haven't won in the last 5 or 6 games. They don't look as if they're going to win. They haven't got a plan off the pitch. They've got a plan on the pitch. And at least yesterday there was a bit of passion, which has been badly missed. And I just wonder, you look at those other teams. Norwich have now won 2 on the bounce. They've got points on the board when only a month ago everyone had written Norwich off as being guaranteed to go down. And I fear for Everton because I still think amongst fans, and I still think amongst players, and I still think certainly at the board level, I think there's this inbuilt sort of knowledge that we're too big to go down. Well, actually, that's been shown time and time again to be a complete untruth, because actually, there is that danger that the play, like you said, Stephen, the players are not good enough at Everton.
No club's too big to go down. I mean, the team you played yesterday, Aston Villa, the European champions, John, they were relegated a few years ago, and you just got back in. So if there's that mentality, then that needs to be careful. Ayesara. But the reason you're right is because you got them games in hands, and I just want to put another twist on it. I know you just looked at your fixtures and you said, just thought you risked off a load of fixtures there, and I know where you're coming from. You don't see how Everton are going to pick up points, but I'm going to flip it. There's a team at the top where everyone's thinking that's it. They just look invincible. They look like they can't drop points. Southampton nearly beat them yesterday, Man City. So perception isn't always the real thing. I mean, we'll get onto the Kane thing later. I didn't see it, but I'll talk about what Chris Sutton was saying on the radio. He said you can't judge things by perception because what someone was arguing was the hand in the back by it looks like he's pushed them, but you can't deal with it in perception. It's got to be done in real. You know what I mean? So I think give it a few weeks. You got the passion back, which is one thing. But I don't know what Benitez is doing to stifle that. But I know Benitez can be a bit of a controversial fella in the dressing room, but he's a winner. Do you know what I mean? That's what I thought. It was a bit funny, but
I was sad to see him go. But something needed to change, and something still needs to change.
It's going to take one little spark, one goal, one little a hard-fought draw, or away from home. In one of these games that you're talking about there, or a win, nicking a win at the end, or doing something is going to. It just gives you so much, gives the players so much confidence.
Yeah, certainly does.
Norwich. I thought done well Friday getting that win. They've got 2 wins on the bounce now. I think they got them out of the bottom 3 for the first time this week at some point, so they're still out of it. So they're looking at for the
I think you take your hat off there to Dean Smith because he hasn't gone. He's gone in there. He hasn't panicked. He's taken stock of what's going on amongst his players. He's decided he sort of chose to play Cantwell. He then dropped Cantwell again. He's played other players, and he's tried to find out what his best starting 11 that will get him results is. And he's gone about it really quietly. Hasn't made a big fuss, and it's shown by performances on the pitch. They've done really well. I'll take my hat off to them, and I think as well. I think if you're a Norwich fan, you must be in a position now where you're thinking, well, anything's possible. It's just because anything is possible for Norwich. They could stay up, and it's nice to see.
Burnley got a good point. Was it away to Arsenal today?
Yeah.
So
that was
right, John,
that wasn't on the telly, unfortunately. So there's also an incident in that, and I think because Burnley frustrate football playing teams and they basically wind you up. I think there's a couple of decisions I'd need to see on the highlights package later before I could pass comment on them. But I think it's typical Burnley. It's just like you make yourself difficult to beat, you pick up the point, and by whatever means necessary, you get it done. And I think there was a foul within one of the games. I think a few people on Twitter were obviously Arsenal fans were complaining that I think it was Ashley Westwood should have seen red and he would only be given a yellow card. But I'll wait until I see it later. I've not seen it, like I said, not seen it yet. But that's what Burnley do. They frustrate you. They'll wind you up. And Arsenal unfortunately, I've got to start to find ways of beating teams that just come and actually, for want of a better word, part the bus. And they've got to learn to break teams down. And they got young lads there who are capable of doing it, but it becomes really frustrating if you're an Arsenal fan because you're expecting them to go out and score 2 or 3 every time, aren't you? And like looking back on their results, like they didn't score against you last week. No. They got nothing each the week before at Anfield. They didn't score in the FA Cup, and then they scored against Man City on the 1st of January. So they only scored once in 2022 so far.
Oh, that's not good.
It's not really. And again, I'll go back to that's because I've put a nice cluster of Arsenal players into my fantasy team. You see, so once again, that curse of the fantasy selection sort of comes in. You just get to the stage where you're thinking, oh, what on earth can I do next to try and get some points?
I'm telling you, I know where you're coming from. I put Saka in a few weeks ago, but he's done nothing for me since. Yeah. But sticking with the relegation teams, John, Newcastle got a win as well. So
yeah, and that was again another one that was, I think, a little bit unexpected. I think a lot of people would have fancied Leeds to have got. Leeds being the home team, you would have thought they would have done something there, but actually, again, Newcastle look a little bit more difficult to beat, and they're playing a much better structured form of football. And I don't think many people would have been surprised when Shelvey sort of banged that goal in, and it was just
from a goalkeeper's point of view, that, John.
Oh, absolutely.
Really, I know it's took a bit of a deflection, but he should be dealing with that. And he's a good keeper, that Meslier. You know what I mean? I thought he'd have dealt with that, but
yeah,
I watched that game and I thought Newcastle was fully deserving of the win. In fact, to be honest with you, it was a good game. I wouldn't have been too grumbled if Leeds had got the draw out of it. But
yeah.
I think massive wins for Newcastle and Norwich this week. Burnley got so many games in hand, it's unbelievable. And then to go to Arsenal and get the point, which was a good result. So the bottom three look like they're starting to fight, trying to claw their way and fight, fight. So going back to your team, John, Everton, they're going to have to start to find that fight themselves, really.
Absolutely.
If they don't, they are going to get sucked into it, and they need to be careful on that. But they just, I don't know. It all depends on, can the passion itself for Everton get them away from that area. Do you know what I mean?
I do, and I think it also needs Dominic Calvert-Lewin scoring again and Richarlison scoring again. They need to start scoring goals, because actually, without them, you're not gonna get anything, and that's really where I think a lot of teams at the bottom end of that league at the minute. You look at Leeds, they're missing Bamford. You looked at Newcastle, they end up buying was it Chris Wood from Burnley, and then you look at Watford and the lad Dennis getting sent off. And you're just thinking there's such fine margins at the minute, and you're thinking, well, actually, you can't afford to be without some of your strikers, because you need to start scoring goals. The other one as well to look out for is actually Brentford. Brentford are suddenly getting sort of clawed back.
Yeah.
Not winning, just one win in 5. And they've played a lot of games at Brentford. So again, when you look at Burnley, only having played 18, and Brentford have played 23 games, there's like that little false look to the table where if Burnley can actually string some results together, they're going to find themselves catapulted up the table. And then you're going to find some of these teams that, 14th, 15th place are going to be really sucked into it. So,
yeah, definitely. I think the relegation battle's one to look out for. I think sucking a good few teams in there, especially if the teams below them are winning the games. That draw for Burnley, they're going to get so much confidence off that. Yeah, I've not seen the fixtures for Burnley, but I would imagine it doesn't matter who they're playing; they're all above them anyway. Yeah. So I think getting that draw away to Arsenal will give them so much confidence that they will probably kick on and get a couple of more draws, maybe not winning it.
I think Burnley fans, if you're looking for the next run of fixtures, this is it. They're at home against Watford on the 5th of February, which is the Saturday, which is the FA Cup weekend. Then they've got Man United at home, Liverpool at home, Brighton at home, Palace away. So Brighton away and Palace away, and then Chelsea. So they've got another tricky run of fixtures, and they're the type of team that they can go and take points off Man United and Liverpool and Man City because they shut up shop. They're well organised.
Yeah, when you said Liverpool was in there, I was like, because I also got worried then because I thought, we always have a solid time at Burnley. They always give us a really tough game.
Yeah.
And they're not the easiest on the eye, but they can't afford to be. Sean Dyche has done playing very structured football.
Yeah.
It's very hard to break down on the day. They can beat any team on the day as well, Burnley, because they'll hit you on the break if they need to. Yeah. And the opportunities you spoke, especially with teams like Liverpool and Man City, where we play such a high line. If they put someone, I can't remember the name of who's up front now, but they put him up towards on the shoulders of like Van Dijk and Matip, who, to be honest, we'll get onto him in a minute, who's absolutely playing awful at the moment.
Really?
I haven't. Well, the last 2 games I haven't liked them. I was calling for him to be pulled off at half time today. He was yanked off at half time in the semi-final against Arsenal because he was awful.
Nice.
So
just keep with the Burnley theme though. What was interesting, a couple of the Sunday papers, and whether it's just it's the silly season for the papers. I do understand that. I just tend to ignore all of the stories that go on about it. But actually, Newcastle are desperate for a centre half, and the story involved signing Tarkowski. Now, if Burnley was stupid enough to do that, having already got rid of the lad Wood to Newcastle, if you're going to get rid of Tarkowski, you might as well just accept your relegation fate. But again, newspapers do like to just make the most out of this transfer window. And the one thing I thought this before, and I thought I'll make a note of this for the show tonight, because I actually think we've got about another week left of the transfer window.
Yeah,
and we've got a little bit of a break in the fixtures, which I thought was a little bit peculiar, because actually we've now got players disappearing. I know Newcastle have gone to Saudi Arabia. I know Harry Maguire's stepped on a plane to Dubai today and things like that. But I'm thinking, hang on a minute. These players now are no longer within their club structures on a day in, day out basis. And so all the agents have got to do is just, get yourself down to wherever. I've got a deal for you. Don't forget to train in the morning, so let's have a talk about it. And it's going to fit in for agents the end of this transfer window rather nicely. And I know that sounds a really peculiar thing to say, but it doesn't sit right for me. I'd rather have my star players turning up in training. Excuse me. In training,
some water. Yeah.
In training, day in, day out, and see where it goes from there.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, even if they're away, this week, and I know you're saying he's working with the agents and stuff like that, the club's got to agree to sell them, haven't they? At the end of the day, unless they're coming towards the end of the contract, they've got 6 months left for them. In which case, if you're a football club and you allowed yourself to get into that position of a player in the last 6 months, then you need to have a good, strong word with yourself. Because
certainly do.
But yeah, I see where you're coming from. Yeah, we've got a break in. I don't know, is it an international break? Is it just a break?
I think it's just a break. I'm desperately trying to look for international games. I think there's World Cup qualifying for some of the South American and Asian and North and Central American teams.
Yeah.
And I'm desperately trying to see any other games that have any other relevance, and I can't. And I think it's just like that. If it was Burnley, I'd be trying to be getting some of my games played in the next couple of weeks.
That's what I was just thinking there. I was just thinking they've got a break in the middle of the January transfer window.
Yeah.
You got all these games that need to be played. Why are they having a break now? I'm sure, like you say, it seems like Burnley, I'm sure they'd want to get the games done so you can get the points on the board. It's better to have the points rather than the games in hand. I know I'd like our game in hand to be played sooner rather than later, so we can get them points on the board. If we get them, obviously you got to get them first, because at the minute 9 points behind City, game in hand, we win our game in hand 6. All of a sudden it's game on again.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bit strange to have that week off when you got so many games that you need to play, and the rules that we spoke about. You can have it come out last week. I know we were having a go at Arsenal, weren't we, last week? They used the excuse of they got AFCON players. Well, actually, you're allowed to use it. I don't know if it's the FA or the Premier League who are doing it. But basically, I've heard, I don't know how true it is, this is just what I've heard, is that if you've got a positive COVID test and you only need one, and you've got a load of other players out through the AFCON, then they'll allow you to suspend the game, postpone the game. So I'm like, well, hang on a minute. That's so you've caused that mess yourself, whoever's come up with them rules. So you need to fix it, because you can't change the rules in the middle of the season because the teams will kick off. That's it. It's done now. You've set the rules. Now you need to come up with a plan to get these games done, because Burnley are only at the halfway point. Man City have played 23 games. City have played 24. We've played 22. I think United are on 20, 22 or something like that.
Yeah.
There's so many different stages. All teams are at different stages of the season.
Yeah.
You look at Burnley, who's at the worst case 18. They've got 20 games to play. Man City 24. They've got 14 games to play. There's 6 games difference there. It needs to be caught up.
And the other part to that is you're then going to be having these teams who've got games that need to be caught up. That at a time where it's going to impact on relegation and actual winning the league and European places, but then you're going to have players that are going to be absolutely shattered because they're going to have to play 3 games a week at some point.
They will do. You got the European games starting soon next month. They come back, Champions League, Europa League, and stuff like that. So you got teams who are in that who are having to catch up. Where do you get these games in? The FA Cup's kicking off. All right, the League Cup's almost done. You got the final next month. Where do we get these games, John? Because they're going to want international friendlies, aren't they? Even though they're not until Christmas, they're still going to want the international friendlies when they normally have them.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't like to be in charge of fixing that mess. I'll tell you now.
No way.
Genetic, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You go to work with a big box of aspirin.
Yeah, I think as well, and I think from again, isn't it strange that we've now got a break, whereas managers were complaining over Christmas and New Year how many games they had to fit in, and how unfair it was, how tired the players were. Hang on, they're not telling us now that the players are great because they're off to Dubai for a week. They keep that quiet. They don't like to share that and don't have a whinge about that, do they? No. And actually, what we're finding at the minute is it's going to impact on some of those teams massively as the season draws to a close. And I think we alluded to it last week. Just very briefly, is the fact that are they going to extend the end of the season? I don't think that's not going to happen. So are you really going to make a mockery of your own competition by making some of these teams play so many times when players are obviously going to be tired and going to be in that same position that they were over Christmas and New Year? It's a strange one.
Not just that, John. They've got a duty of care, and all these players are on an obscene amount of money, and they're very fit people. They train a lot. But if you put someone into the position where they're playing 3 professional games in a week, it's going to do something to the body. They've got a duty of care not to put any harm to these players, and at the end of the day, why should a club who's had to pick up, I want to use Burnley again because they're the worst case, why should Burnley, who've got 6 games to catch up, right, they're in a relegation battle, John, and if they get told to play 3 games in a week and the players start dropping off injured, that's no through no fault of Burnley. And I could easily see them getting relegated. So it's one of them. Where did they go? I think they've got no other alternative here, John, other than to extend the season. We don't have the World Cup in the summer months, so they've got a bit of leeway. They've got a bit of cushion in there, right? But they could also easily go and sort to the FA. If these. I know they can only talk to the other FAs and just say, can you please not pick any players from the Premier League in your friendlies because they're not worth it. If it's a friendly, why play them so they can get the games and come to some sort of deal with things like that.
Spot on that.
I don't know how they're going to do it, but they've got so much headaches now. They've got, like I say, Burnley's half a dozen games behind. You've got the duty of care on the players. They can't be putting them under any undue stress here to get them injured and that. Also, it's not fair on the club who's ultimately going to suffer. So I think they're going to have to look at something like extending the season, cancelling a few friendlies internationally for England, or coming to an agreement with the FAs around the world who are associated with the players on these clubs, and see if they can come to some sort of arrangement. But ultimately, it's a mess. It's a royal mess, and we can all see what's coming. We can see it coming a mile off. They've allowed teams too easily to be able to postpone games. I mean, for me, Arsenal should never ever have got away with postponing that game against Tottenham last week.
Yeah,
disgraceful.
100%.
A few days later in the semi-final of Carabao Cup, we've got all these players available again now. Where did they all come from? It's because they didn't want to play 2 games in the week. That's what it was.
Yeah,
that's just maybe me being cynical, but
no, I don't think it is. I think it's perfectly rational. I think there's a lot of people that agree with you on that point, because it just doesn't seem. It goes back to, I think one of the things that I think anybody would like is for rules to be consistent and for the rules to be clear. And I'll take us back over 12 months to, I think, was it Man City last Boxing Day at a game against Everton. And they had a couple of COVID cases, and because the rules weren't exactly watertight then, they were allowed to postpone that game because actually they didn't want to be playing too many games again in a week. But this season, they've drawn up a protocol, but it doesn't seem to be consistent. And I think that's the bit that is more annoying for fans of other teams. And actually, I think Arsenal fans just look at it and think, we'd make these rules work to suit ourselves.
Yeah. To be honest with you, it's no fault of Arsenal. The rules are there. They haven't bent the rules. The rules, from what I've been told, I don't know, from what I've been told, the rules are there that, as long as it's got one COVID positive test, you've got players out who are on international duty, like in the African Cup of Nations, then you can have it postponed. So it's not any way of saying Arsenal's done any wrong here. It's just using Arsenal as an example. But the rules are basically the people who need to be able to count here is the Premier League. The Premier League needs to get a grip of the rules.
Absolutely.
Because you look at it, you've got, I think the FA Cup, the teams are told to field the team. Bundesliga, you look at Bundesliga, Bayern Munich fielded a whole bench of kids.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they would have forfeited the points. So hang on a minute. Why is it the Premier League that's happening?
Yeah. But the not when the FA Cup. Actually, they'd nailed it on, hadn't they? They said the FA Cup, if you can't field a team, well, it's tough. We'll just move on in the competition without you. Yeah. And so amazing how some of them young lads that they wouldn't play in the league game get a game in the cup.
Yeah.
But anyway, speaking of rules, we've been really quiet about this, and I'm gonna start on a different tilt, because I know you want to talk about the centre half pairing at Liverpool. I'm just going to throw into the mix last night's game. Where once again VAR decides to draw lines that just look completely askew when Man United played West Ham. And I tell you what, having had Richarlison have 2 goals disallowed off VAR decisions recently, how Cavani was ever onside, I don't know. That's my first one about VAR. Today, Liverpool got the most dubious penalty I think I've seen in a country year. I just how he can give Jota a foul against the goalkeeper when Jota actually barged into the keeper, I don't know. And then Spurs were denied an absolutely perfectly good goal because Harry Kane seemingly touched the Chelsea defender. And I use the word touched in inverted commas because actually I don't think there was much contact there. And I'm just thinking, do you know something? We keep coming back to this same point. The technology is not being used well enough, and it's not being used consistently, and it's not being used to get to the correct decision. And I think we're beginning to see some animosity rising towards referees again because they're not applying the actual rules. They're actually totally re-refereeing based on slow motion replays. And if you can't see it in the first couple of replays, then it's not a foul, is it? No. If you're going to pour over it for like 7, 8, 9 replays just to see whether there was contact, go with the decision, common sense decision that either was made originally or give the referee the opportunity. Yeah. If it wasn't a penalty, then give him the right to make the decision. It's absolutely ridiculous. It really is. And it's going to, I've said this before. So how can so many other countries have VAR? They make it work. They use it successfully. And yet we seemingly have taken something and broken it again and again and again. And what's really frustrating, it doesn't matter what team you support, it seemingly does become the bigger teams at the top end of the table that seem to get the decisions for them. And I think if you were if you were West Ham yesterday, you probably felt rather aggrieved because I think they did enough at Old Trafford for a point. I certainly felt Palace were good value for coming back at you guys today.
Yeah, definitely.
And that third goal really killed the game at a time where Palace were really pushing and they were really trying to seek out certainly an equaliser, whether they got it or not. But I think there's a couple of occasions where I think Alisson was being made to work rather hard to keep using it. And then Spurs really, that to me was just diabolical. It really was. And again, Harry Kane's in my fantasy team, so I could have done with the goal there. It was just
wasn't
purely selfishly thinking, but it just why is it in this country we take something that's actually meant to improve the game and then just completely make a mess of it? I really don't get it.
Because us British, we are very good at proving that nothing is foolproof. That's what we're very good at. Yeah. We're very good at proving it's not foolproof. Going to the first one, the lines on the VAR. Something's got to be done about this because we're going to end up down the line of because our referees need to go to Specsavers and they must have goggly eyes on or something like that. Got lovely blue eyes, one blue one way, one blue the other. They can't line straight, and with a computer that will do it for you. They can't seem to do it. I used to have a picture on here, John. We did it. It was last season when we spoke about it. The line was like that. You know, it's ridiculous. We're going to get to the point where we're going to have to draw lines on the pitch, physical lines on the pitch for them, so they can see.
Yeah,
it's bordering on ridiculous. You can even have lasers. If you want lasers, put lasers across. Your camera will pick that up, and then that'll give you your line. It's just it is stupid. In terms of the Liverpool one, John, never a penalty for me. For me, there was contact, but like you say, you've got to keep looking at it and looking at it. And the longer he was looking at it, he was thinking, he's going to overturn this. And obviously, as a Liverpool fan, selfishly, I'm going, please overturn it. Please overturn the penalty. I'll take it. Of course I will. But you're looking at it, and how Jamie Carragher was saying it's not a penalty. I'm looking at it going, it's never a penalty, that. Because you've got to look at it as, but for the goalkeeper, would Jota have gone on to score? No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't.
No, the ball had gone. The ball had been lost. There was nothing to be playing for.
It was going. It was going out. It was going out. He was going out for a goal kick. He would never have got there. It was too far close to the byline and too far away from the goal. So how he's come out and said, right, that's him stopping and playing the ball. The ball wasn't there to be played to begin with. It was never a penalty, and I feel sorry for Crystal Palace on that. I really do.
Yeah.
They were doing well in the second half. First half, Liverpool blew them away. Second half, they come out and played really, really well. In terms of the Kane one, I don't know. Didn't see it. I was listening to the video, but I know Chris Sutton was going off. Yeah. Go back to
it's unusual, Chris Sutton having that sort of. Usually, Chris Sutton plays devil's advocate, and he won't take the sort of side of any team. He'll just sort of wind fans up because he's never one of the best pundits on the radio. However, if he's going in big on it and saying what a ridiculous decision the Kane disallowed goal was, it tells you just how shameful it was. It really was.
Again, it's down to intent, isn't it? It's down to, it's not about, perception. From what he's probably, what it sound like to me, John, on the radio, he's just done that with his hand. It's
Thiago Silva.
Right. It's a contact sport, John. It's a contact sport. Yeah. What are we supposed to do? Sit there and not do that? He's done that, obviously. Players do it all the time. I did it myself when I played. You stick your hand out and you'd stick it out behind you, you stick it around you, just feel like that. You can feel the player. You just feel the player so that if he moves in one way or the other, you can adjust how you play and adjust your movements. By the sounds of what the guys on the radio were saying, and that's all he's done. He stuck his hand out. He's got his hand on his back or something like that. He's felt where he's going, and Thiago's gone flying over. But by all accounts, Thiago's momentum was going to do that to him anyway. He was never going to get there to get Kane, and Kane should have kept the goal. Chris Sutton was going off his head on that, and also the Liverpool penalty. You know, they're going, how can that be done? People up and down the country.
I think the Liverpool one itself, if you're going to give that as a penalty, and no offense, this is no offense to Diogo Jota, that's all. But if you're going to give that as a penalty, then a goalkeeper basically is just going to have to stand on their line and not make any movement in the penalty area whatsoever, because it seemingly is, if you run into the goalkeeper and fall over, then you can actually win a penalty. And I actually felt that Jota actually deviated from his natural line to collide with the keeper. The ball had gone, and he was basically just playing. So let's see what I can get. Let's see what I can get out of this.
It's weird. It's just weird how they looked at it and looked at it and looked at it and still come to the wrong conclusion. I don't think there's any Liverpool fan up and down the country that would say that's a penalty. I don't think there was any Liverpool fan in the stadium that would have said that was a penalty. I certainly don't think it was a penalty. I've not heard anyone say they think it's a penalty other than VAR and the guy on the pitch, and also the Premier League coming out and backing up the decision.
Yeah,
you know, it's just they're the only three voices that I've heard say it's a penalty. So get me wrong, we needed that. And I was like, we're under the because Matip, I don't know what's gone on with Matip the last two games, but he was awful again today. Giving the ball away, nearly gave a goal away, passing it across the 18-yard box and just straight to one of their players. Like that. I'd have turfed them off at half time again, honestly, because he wasn't even great in the first half where we were dominating.
Yeah, that was really interesting because Palace actually had a little bit of a plan, which usually against a decent Liverpool back four, you never get away with. But Liverpool seemed to be defending really, really high up the pitch. And so Palace would just keep continually putting the ball over the top of Matip because they realised that he didn't have that sort of speed as he's being forced to turn and run back. So it was a couple of times Andy Robertson came and filled in from at one point. I think Van Dijk did at another. And Palace were onto something. And actually, they kept doing it. They got away with one, did Liverpool. I think Alisson made a cracking save. And then also there was another one that was an uncharacteristic kind of lack of communication at the back as well. It just seemed, Liverpool seemed a little bit, I don't know, I might be wrong in saying that. I think they just look a little bit out of sorts.
You looked Jekyll and Hyde today, John. They were they were absolutely amazing in the first 3 quarters of the first half. And then for the rest of the game, they were awful. Yeah. They were giving the ball away. They were losing the aerial battles. They weren't winning the 50-50s. Yeah. They were losing the midfield battle. Palace in the second half, all credit to them, they come out and right from the first minute going, they went at Liverpool. They had a couple of chances in the first 2 minutes of that second half. And then, lo and behold, they ended up getting the goal. You know, and to be honest with you, if it wasn't for the penalty, who knows? They could have gone.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it was one of those days today where you actually could see Palace just coming back at them there. Yeah, sorry, that's the word, isn't it? Yeah. That is the disjointed. I don't know. I'm feeling disjointed today, I must admit. It's actually that's actually a really good way of describing it. And I know Liverpool have got players away at African Cup of Nations, but actually the majority of that team is still good enough to actually turn up for any football club in the world, and they would still go and give it. You know, they would go and win. So I don't quite know what it is. I don't know whether it's is it the balance in midfield. I don't know.
I don't know. It could be, you know, but you're not put it down to the fact that what we were talking before in terms of like Burnley, Newcastle going out and getting the results and Norwich getting a win as well. You know, teams don't lie down, John. There's no easy game in the Premier League. There really isn't. I mean, we spoke about Burnley before. You said Liverpool have got to go to Burnley, and they're at the bottom of the table. I wouldn't thought Liverpool going to Burnley as well because that's just the calibre of the league. Yeah. Is it not something to do with that? Because I thought, we were disjointed, we were poor. Yeah. But equally, Palace were really good in that second half. I thought they caused us a lot of problems. a really lot of problems. Like I say, they were winning all the aerial battles from what I could tell. The midfield battle, they were winning. We tried to put another player in midfield to try and counter that, and I don't think it worked. I don't think it worked at all. You got young Curtis Jones. He's got skill, he's got ability, but he's not matching it yet. He's not got any end results. He looks panicky when there's players coming on him. To me, he does anyway. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe other people disagree with me and say that. But for me, when I watch him, he looks scared when players start to surround him. There was a point in the first half where Liverpool always play around at the back and they expect the midfielders to be able to get the ball under pressure, turn or pass one or the other way. He didn't either. He didn't turn, he didn't pass, and he ended up losing the ball just about 5 yards outside the 18-yard box. So he needs a little bit of coaching, and he needs to mature a bit more before he can cement himself as a real start at Liverpool. So for me, I said it at the start of the season. I'll say it again. We need more midfielders at Liverpool. We do need that extra quality. I know Charlie's not here, and I'll name his favourite player, Thiago, but I think Thiago is a decent player on his game.
Yes, he is.
So he's out for the rest of the season. You're going to miss that.
That's a big miss, though. When you consider what he'd actually made the difference in that midfield, because he was allowing you not to play Henderson and Firmino every single week, because he was just taking control of all of that sort of dirty work in midfield, which then allowed the ball to be sort of passed a little bit more quickly on towards sort of your flair players. That's not happening now. It seems to be a much more laboured and much more sort of slower approach to the game, and I think maybe that's maybe you're onto something there. I think it's.
I will say before we move on from Liverpool is every single one of them players needs to go and give Alisson a pint, because he was immense today.
Yeah,
absolutely immense.
Yeah,
there was a point there where Robertson was running back, hurtling back, and Alisson's towards the edge of his 18-yard box, and I could see it come a mile. And he headed it back into his own goal. He headed it, and Alisson just jumped. I think Carragher said in commentary, it's always the keeper's fault that he can see what's coming on. I sort of agree with you there, Carragher, but I also, as an ex-goalkeeper, I also disagree with you. Your defender should be watching what's happening. To be fair, if it was me, I'd be shouting at the defender. I'm so he could hear where I am on the pitch. I shout at the defender, just I'm here, just to your left, to your right, just so he knows where I am. Maybe there wasn't that going on, so we'll see. Thankfully, it wasn't a goal. Thankfully, he didn't score the own goal. Thankfully, we got the win. And Oxlade-Chamberlain, his injury when he's on that silly ankle twist the other week, like he stepped off a curb and bent his ankle. He come on and scored. He scored today. So
I know we've not spoken about this game, but it's maybe worthy of mentioning. It's like the other game today was Leicester-Brighton, and Leicester once again have shown their sort of their weak underbelly, where they keep going into taking a lead in a game and getting pegged back, and that's never a good sign. And when people, you're reading the story of the game, and it's talking about nervy Leicester, and you're just thinking that's not the type of game you want, is it? You don't want your team to be 1-0 up at home and then getting pegged back by Brighton, who at the minute are seemingly sort of draw specialists, in a way.
They've drawn a lot, haven't they? They've drawn a lot.
Yeah. But the drawing games where they were getting beat, and I think, fair play to them. They got a draw with Chelsea. They drew with Palace. Obviously they beat Everton. That goes without saying. But they seem to be able to get results. Even going back to the start of December, they got a draw away at West Ham. Rather than coming away empty-handed, they're finding ways to get points, and that for Brighton is going to be such a really good springboard for the rest of the season for them, and it's going to keep them just in touch with they've already got 30 points, so they're at the stage where they're going to have to. They won't have that worry of looking over the shoulder who's coming. But Leicester have only got 26 points. Leicester are the ones that you start thinking, if they don't get a shifty on and don't start, Leicester, you'd have thought Leicester would have been at least top 6 or 7, just based on the fact that they keep going into the leading games and then they just seemingly throw it away.
Yeah, well, they've had 3 defeats in the last 6 games as well, haven't they?
Yeah.
The run of form is not great there. And you're talking about maybe Leicester, they go ahead and they get right back.
Yeah.
Brendan Rodgers was always done. He's always done that. He gets ahead. I don't think he knows how to start defending and protecting a lead. Even a 1-0 lead, if it's a tough game, really tough game.
Yeah.
1-0, you sit and protect that. But I don't think Rodgers has got that in his makeup and how he wants to see him to play. I don't think he's like that. But all credit to him for doing it. But yeah. So
just on the same sort of subject though, because actually I think we've not really mentioned City, who are now 12 points. Is it 12 points out at the top of the league from Liverpool, having played
9 points.
Having played games less. But actually, City actually were made to look very ordinary yesterday. Oh, look, Charlie's in the chat.
Hello, Charlie. Hello from it.
Oh, wow. He's in Epcot. Goodness, all right for some.
We won 3-1, luckily enough. We got a penalty that shouldn't have been a penalty. And that we can thank VAR for that.
Yeah.
We got the 3 points. That's all that matters. That's all that matters.
Oh,
Epcot.
Oh. Yeah, Sarah, I'd agree with you. Yeah. I can't think of anywhere else I'd rather be just right now than the middle of Epcot. Oh, having said that, I do know for a fact it is exceptionally chilly in Orlando this weekend. So there was a frost warning.
John, we're in the north of England, mate.
I know, yeah. I know. Anywhere's better than.
I mean, I can show you my window now. It's got frost.
The thing is, in Orlando, it's a different kind of frost because when the sun comes out, it'll be like
gone.
It's going to be splitting the flags. There you go. He's got to go and see some art and get cultured. Epcot on a Sunday is generally going to go and see some culture and then also going to get plastered because it's a nice day for drinking around the world, isn't it? So
yeah, the only culture you need, Charlie, is down at the Rose and Crown. That's the only culture you need. Tell them we sent you. Go and have a pint of Strongbow. That's it. Just before we go back into the football, it always gets me that bad. It's in the United Kingdom. You go into the Rose and Crown. It's full of Guinness and half. It's Irish.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. The best thing of all, and I've said this on a podcast that I'm on, is even the toilets in there smell like a traditional British pub toilet. So that's just taking the theme to the nth degree, isn't it? So anyway, we digress.
Yeah, let's.
Charlie, enjoy the rest of your day in Epcot. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
And just going back to flipping that Leicester thing back around because City didn't play well at all yesterday. Southampton were excellent. Southampton did a job on City, and actually there was times where you're thinking the game could have got away from City quite easily, and it didn't. They just kept hanging in there, and then ended up, it ended up sort of from conceding in the 7th minute, and then once Laporte equalised in 65. You were kind of half expecting City to push on, and Southampton didn't allow them to do that. It was a brilliant, I gotta say, brilliant team performance by Southampton. Even though they had 26% possession, but they really did a job on City. And it's been a long time since I've seen City look as going back to talking about Liverpool being disjointed, but City really just looked sort of a little bit lost at times. It's really strange.
It's great to see, because what you've got is you've got City who normally just go on a big run of games and win. Don't ever drop at this time of the season. That would have been 13 games, 13 wins straight. They got stopped in the tracks. They got a draw. It gives Liverpool that little bit of chink of light, you know. That's why it was so important to get them 3 points today.
Yeah.
Because of City dropping them too. But it also says, you know, teams got to look at how Southampton done that. You say 26% possession.
Yeah.
You're going to get that against City. Unless you're a top side yourself, you're not going to compete with the possession of Chelsea, of City.
Yeah.
Just not. Because that's what they do. They keep hold of the ball. When you got a passing team who'd like to keep hold of the ball, once they've got it, they won't. It's very hard to get it off them. What it's about is how you defend them balls coming in. You know, and I think Southampton showed everyone just how you do it. They played really well, Southampton, yesterday.
Yeah, that was good. I like it when teams do that because it gives a little bit of hope to everybody else, doesn't it? You know, and it also shows everybody that, and I think Pep said this in his post-game interview, is the fact that as well as the papers keep and the media all keep talking up the fact that the season's over, City have got it in the bag. Actually, they don't, and it's really refreshing to actually see a manager coming out and saying, you know, if we play like that, we can't take anything for granted. And I think he knows that they've still got a lot of work to do. But yeah, interesting just how 2-1-1 draws have a completely different feel from them. You know, I think Southampton would be delighted. I think Leicester would be rather gutted.
Well, did you see the celebrations at the end of the Southampton game, John?
Yeah, it was as if they'd won the World Cup.
But that's the case, you know. See, as a team like Southampton, they're probably looking at them games. They'd be like us, you know. They look at the fixtures in the season. They go, right, where can we get our points? Where are we going to? Right, that's a bonus. We can get it on that. So against, like, they've got City coming, Liverpool coming, Chelsea coming, you know, and the other teams coming. They go, right, okay. If we get anything out of that game, it's a bonus. So to them, to get that point, that's one massive point more than they'd have been banking on. You know the way you've just done it with Everton, going, well, where do we see the points? And you're looking to see where you can get the points to bank them into the league. They'd be doing exactly the same thing. So as far as they're concerned, they've got a plan to survive or to get wherever they need to be, whether it's in the mid-table, Champions Europe, whatever it is.
Yeah.
They have to say it in games that are must-wins. But the fact that they've got that point now it's an absolute bonus that they've got the point. It's an extra point that they've got. So yeah, I thought if other teams can go and play City the way Southampton did yesterday, then who knows, John? Who knows? We could still be having a title race on our hands yet.
You never know.
No.
You never know. Do you know something, Stephen? I think we've talked about every single team this week. We've not managed for a few weeks, so it's been nice to do that.
Yeah.
The only other question I've got for you before we finish is, you know, we're going on it's a so-called mid-season break. So, are you joining Harry Maguire in Dubai, or are you going to join Newcastle in Saudi Arabia, or are you stuck with the northwest of England and the joys of the morning commute? Which one is it to be for you,
John? I really deliberated this one, right? And I was thinking Dubai, Saudi Arabia, really nice places, you know. But you're not taking me out of the Lake District, you know, with the commute, you know, which takes over an hour each morning and an hour of an afternoon, you know, through the windiest roads, you know, and over hills where the sheep get in your way. But no, I'm sticking where I am, John. I really thought about it, went for it, and I thought, you know what, you can keep the sunshine. I want the nice cold weather that I've got here in the northwest of England, and that's what I'm doing. What about you, John? Where are you going?
I'm exactly the same. I wasn't forgiving up. The usual stuff there. Yeah, Sarah's off. Yeah, I wasn't forgiving it up, but I must admit, going to joining Charlie at Epcot seems a good idea. I must admit.
Oh, that'd be great.
It would. But I think one of the things is it makes me laugh amazingly, because you get all these players, they go somewhere dead hot, they come back and it's still cold, so they come back for training. They've all picked up, you know, they've been on a flight for 4 or 5 hours, so they'll be back and they'll have that aircon, that aircon cold, and they're not. Oh, I'm not quite ready, boss, for that first game back. So if you watch, that's the next one.
I'm telling you.
Been a Dubai. So we won't be here next week, will we? Because we're on.
No,
there's no football to talk about next week. So obviously you can talk amongst yourselves at home. but we'll be back, and I'm looking for the dates. I think the next big footballing date is the 13th of February, because we've got there's an FA Cup weekend on the 5th.
Right.
We could do a show maybe on the 6th, depending on whether Everton beat Brentford in the FA Cup. That would be another moment of false hope.
Right. So you got midweek games on the 8th, 9th, and 10th of Feb.
Yeah.
I think we're back on the 13th of Feb, so we've got 2 weeks off.
Okay. There you go. Sarah, get yourself to Dubai, love. That's it. Sorted.
So, like I say, we're not going to Dubai, but what we can do is we can send the drone and see what the drone thinks of it all. Anyway, nice one for watching. See you in 2 weeks.
Later.